Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate. I am your host, Dexter B. Jenkins, and we are live with a studio audience here in Canton, Massachusetts. And as you guys know, we get together once a month to really answer the question, how do you use real estate as a wealth creation tool? And so every month we bring in at least one professional to talk about exactly how to do that. Before we get started, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we plug our Real Estate Wealth Creation Summit. That's coming up on April 4th and 5th in Kent, Massachusetts. You will not want to miss that event. Last year we had about 50 or so investors from all over the country come in and descend upon the Boston area, and we had a great time, and so we're expecting the same again. And so April 4th and 5th. And so if you want information on that, you go to our website, www.rewealthcreationsummit.com, www.rewealthcreationsummit.com. All right, so without further ado, what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to my two guests for tonight. We have Cameron Adesanya from, where are you from?
Lowell, Massachusetts.
Lowell, Massachusetts. And then we got John Bayaga. Where you from, John?
From Ipswich.
Ipswich. Okay, so is that almost by the Cape?
No, it's North Shore.
North Shore, okay. So we have these two gentlemen here, and what we're going to do is we're going to talk tonight about probate and real estate investing. So I want you guys, Cameron, start with you. Look into that mirror, not mirror, look into that camera right there. Tell people who you are a little bit, and then we'll turn over to John. Then we'll get into our discussion for tonight.
Okay. So a little bit about myself. My name's Cameron Adesanya. I'm a probate specialist. I'm from Lowell, Massachusetts. Grew up there and just, all around real estate investor. That's the fun part, right?
John Bayog. I'm the owner and founder of Bayog Law. We do estate planning, so it's helping people plan for their future. I do also have a real estate background. Been a realtor for the past decade or so.
Okay, so we have both these guys who are well versed in this, and the reason why I wanted to have this show tonight really was Cameron and I have been in different meetings together, and we reconnected, I think via Facebook or whatever it was, and the last thing I was talking to him about was the last show we had. I forgot who we had last month, but he said, yeah, Pastor, we started talking about a few things, and I said, I need to have you come on and talk about this area, so because it's very personal to me, because as many of you know, my father passed away in August of 2020, actually, August of 2023, and I actually had to go through probate to inherit a couple pieces of property and some cars and some other stuff, and so this is really a topic that's near and dear to my heart, and so what I want to do is help people avoid some of the things I had to go through. So and like I said, this is just a general conversation. So, and either one of you guys can take this. So talk to us about the importance of an estate plan, what should be part of an estate plan, and so on and so forth.
So first and foremost, I think this conversation is super vital to have. I mean, there's experienced and inexperienced real estate investors, and they still go through the probate process. So no one has to feel any type of way to begin with.
Right.
So to start, first of all, probate is the process of a court either authenticating a will or taking the decedent's assets, has to go through a process where they get transfers to the heirs or beneficiaries, It's a super difficult process. Nobody wants to go through it. So what we like to preach is preventative. We also handle the reactive, but probate is just a super difficult process.
We'll go back. Let's go back up, because I think one of the biggest myths people have is that they don't have an estate. It's almost an estate is like for somebody who got a lot of money or whatever else. And I think one of the things I had to learn was everybody has an estate. So whether we were talking about before we came on camera, that we were talking about Aretha Franklin and people like that who are famous, but then John Smith also has an estate. So he may not be, he or she may not be a millionaire, whatever, but everyone has an estate. So talk a little bit about that process, John and Cameron, that everyone has an estate, and so walk us a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, everyone's got something. Some people have very little to their name, and if that's the case, probate is a simpler process for them, but it still could be a pain in the butt. Especially the higher valued the estate is, the more time consuming and expensive probate can be. And just as just as everyone has something, everyone also has an estate plan, whether they know it or not. It's
Exactly.
what we call the default estate plan.
Okay.
What I'm referring to are the state intestacy laws,
Right.
which is basically a predetermined schedule of who gets your assets laid out by the state. And whether you agree with that schedule of who gets what, whether you agree with it or not, if you don't have a will, if you don't have a trust or an estate plan that you created, that's what you're going to get. And you might not agree with it.
Now that is what we're talking about, because this is also about financial literacy. With this, when we're talking real estate, but we're also talking about financial literacy, because one of the things I always talk about is it's about earning the income, or the building the wealth, creating the wealth. It's about keeping it, but then it's also about how do we intelligently pass it on. And so if I don't have either a will or a trust, I become, like you said, intestate, and then now, so all the work that I've done prior to this point to control things, whether it's real estate, stocks, bonds, whatever I've accumulated or acquired. Now, I controlled it when I was alive, so I also want to control it in my death, as opposed to someone, like you said, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in my case, it was state of Connecticut, telling me how everything can go down. And so I think one of the biggest myths I want to tackle tonight is everybody has an estate plan, but what you want to do is you want to, as you control it while you're alive, the same thing you want to do as you is control it when you pass it on. So.
Yeah, for sure. And what you're partly talking about is generational wealth, I think.
Exactly.
And building generational wealth. And what a lot of people don't get about generational wealth is that it's not just passing down money, not just passing down assets. Right. It's really about passing down a plan. Because it's not about how much money you have or how much money you make. It's how much money you can keep.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's why estate planning is so important, and especially when it comes to generational wealth, because there's so many different ways you can keep more of the pot. You can keep more of the money you make, the money that you worked hard for.
Right.
They like to call probate the generational wealth killer.
Okay.
Because it takes between 5 and 8% of the value of your home. Because that's what you're usually spending on the fees, just going through the process. Hey, you still have to pay your mortgage while you're going through the process.
Right.
Like you said, it was a pretty penny, and it cost, a year of your life, and
$25,000 to probate it in Connecticut.
Exactly.
I hear it all the time, talking to clients who come to me because they want to set up a will or a trust, and they're telling me about how they recently had to go through probate for a loved one, and I asked them about it, and 3 years, 5 years, it can take years and thousands of dollars.
In my case, because I'm an only child, it wasn't a problem. But then once you start getting, like you were talking about earlier off the air, we were talking about two sisters going at one and then you got to track
Nobody
people
wins
out.
when the family feuds.
Oh my goodness! And so
Prince, the artist Prince,
right, exactly.
He died with intestate, I believe, without a will, and so there were 40 alleged heirs that came saying, "Oh, he wanted me to have a piece of that. He wanted me to have a piece of that."
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
Prince's probate, I think the total legal fees were like $6 million or something like that. It took years.
Yeah.
And we're talking icons, like I told you, off air. Aretha Franklin, her 4 boys are fighting over the estate. Well, where do you think the money's coming from?
Right.
Chadwick Boseman, he just died, didn't have a will. So first and foremost, I'm not an attorney. I work with a very reputable and great attorney. John's great. A will, you still have to probate, ladies and gents. So what I recommend, a living trust, it's more of like, would you rather, like let's say you had a piece of paper and you had to protect this paper. Would you rather a tarp protect this paper, or would you rather put it in a garage, right? The living trust is the garage and the tarp is the will, okay? This is just my personal recommendation from what I've seen. I've been in this, roughly almost 3 years now, and I focus solely on probate. And it's no fun.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a common misconception. A lot of people think that having a will they don't have to worry about probate, and they're totally wrong.
Right.
A will guarantees you go to probate. For the will to be effective, it has to be probated. It has to go through a court process. A judge has to review it, approve of it, and yeah, there's other ways to avoid probate, but having a will is not one of them.
So let's go back. So we talk about we talk about estate planning, and okay, we say everyone has an estate, and so now as we're talking about, the main thing we're looking at is how can we intelligently pass this on so generational wealth is not squandered, or at least depleted, or made less than that. So two of the instruments that we can use, one is a will, one is a living trust. Am I right? And so far, I just tracked that.
Yes,
Sure.
that you can pass them
Yeah.
down. Yes.
Okay.
Sure, yeah.
So talk about, and then we talked a little bit about, because we might have people out there who are watching or who watch later on. Okay, what's a will? What's a trust? Living trust? Because for the most part, these are not things that we talk about. So can we go a little bit deeper into nuances? Obviously, we can't take a whole hour on this, but if you guys can go just a little deeper around the will and the trust area.
Sure, yeah.
Some main differences.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. I'll try and tie it all together. Like super high level overview really quickly. A will is great. There's three big benefits to having a will. You say who gets what,
Okay.
as opposed to the state saying who gets what.
Okay.
You can name guardians for minor children. If you've got kids, you should definitely have a will, and
Okay.
you can't really do that in the trust the same way. So you should also have a will, because you can name guardians for your minor kids.
Okay.
Super important. And you also get to name your personal representative,
Right.
formerly called the executor.
Right.
And if you don't do that, then the state might appoint someone, and and they might not distribute your assets. They might not handle your estate the way you might want them to.
Okay.
So real quick,
yeah.
The personal representative is just the person who has a fiduciary duty to take care of the estate.
Okay.
Okay, that's just the person in charge of taking care of everything.
Right.
What they have to do, they have to set up a bank account, and everything has to flow through the bank account. And they also, if it's not in the will, I believe, they have to get a right to sell, just so
Okay.
But
Yep.
that's all a bunch of.
They distribute assets, close out accounts, pay off
Right,
debts.
right.
So it's important to have control over who that is.
Right.
Trust does. I'll talk about three of the benefits. There are so many benefits to having a
Okay.
trust. I could talk about three of them that really apply generally, and then there are a couple tax benefits that I think, and actually a lot of these benefits will help with, accumulating wealth and
Okay.
being able to pass it down.
Okay.
So, real quick, one of them is confidentiality. The probate process is all public. Your will becomes public record. A lot of people don't realize that. Having a trust,
Right. Okay.
having a trust actually, it doesn't get publicized. So you don't know what other people got. You only know what you got.
Okay.
It's more discreet.
That's all creditors. Just
Yeah.
Not to throw you off. I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
no, it's
that,
good. Yeah, and a big one is probate avoidance. Anything that you put into that trust,
Okay.
it'll avoid it won't pass through probate. So with the house, it might, if you just have a will, it has to go through probate. It could be a year before your beneficiaries are able to sell that asset.
Right.
But with the trust, it could pass to them the next day, after you pass away. So avoiding probate, that's a big money saver right there.
Right.
Saving on fees right there. There are a lot of tax benefits to having trusts. It can get complicated. There's a lot of really high level stuff for high net worth estates, but generally, for a spouse, having a trust allows you to fully utilize your Massachusetts estate tax exemption.
Right.
So in Massachusetts, there's a $2 million exemption per person for the estate tax. For a married couple,
So explain what that is.
So what that means is you don't have to pay estate taxes, or your estate won't have to pay taxes on anything less than $2 million.
Okay.
You'll have to pay tax on, when you pass away, on anything over $2 million. $2 million. And you might think, oh, I'm married, so we each have $2 million. We're set. It's $4 million. But at the state level, that's not necessarily true. You need a trust to be able to fully utilize both spouses' exemptions.
Wow. Okay.
So if you don't have a trust, you can only utilize one spouse's exemption. So that's a difference of, paying tax on $2 million
Right.
or not.
Yeah,
It's either 2 million's exempt or you exempt the whole 4 million.
Okay.
And so
That's
that's
huge.
It's huge.
And
It's
that's
like
just a
$100,000
small
worth of
tidbit.
tax.
Yeah. No, that's huge.
Another benefit, and this benefit applies to wills too, is passing real estate or any kind of asset, is the capital gains
Right.
tax.
Tell 'em to
So
step up.
if you pass it, the step up in basis.
Right.
If you pass those assets by will or trust, by inheritance, then those assets will receive a step up in basis. So basically that means you won't be, when you go to sell that asset later on, you won't have as much tax liability.
Okay.
Whereas if you were gifted that asset outright during your life, you would inherit the tax basis of the person who gifted it to you. Yeah, so if you bought, say you bought a property back in the day, you paid $100,000 for it.
Right.
Right now it's worth $1 million, and you gift it to me. I'm gonna inherit your tax
900,000.
basis of $100,000. So if I go to sell it, turn around, sell it today, I have to pay capital gains tax on that $900,000 worth of appreciation.
Wow.
But if I inherited that, I would receive what's called a step up in basis. So now my tax basis is $1 million.
Okay.
And then if I go to sell it the next day, there's no capital gains tax.
So in other words, I mean, because sometimes you hear with estate planning, and then we'll open you guys up for questions. If you got some questions, you got some. Both of y'all like this. Just grab the microphone and get ready, which is right there, Victor. See in front of you. Okay. See, because sometimes you hear people say, I've gifted this while the person is alive. So and everybody, and every situation is different. I know. So is it smart for someone to gift a property while they're alive, or is it smarter to put it in a trust and work through that, or?
I mean, classic lawyer answer, it depends, but generally speaking, if from a capital gains tax perspective, to avoid capital gains tax, much better to leave it to them by a will or a trust.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this was years ago. Maybe like a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, I read that a particular person their parents had gifted them a property while they were alive, and then they were like, I didn't know about this tax hit, and it blindsided them, and so I was like, wow, so as we're looking at these type of things, just conversations to have and be aware of. So hold that thought. You guys have been phenomenal. Any questions out there in the studio audience about anything John or Cameron has talked about? Is it on? Okay.
Yes. I just wanted to go over that tax exemption and the step up basis again that you mentioned earlier. So basically, you're saying that the $2 million, anything less than $2 million, they don't have to pay a tax on.
Yeah, there is
if it's in a will and if it's in a.
It doesn't matter if it's in a will or if it's in a trust. Anything under $2 million is not going to be subject to the Massachusetts estate tax.
Okay.
And at the, so you're going to pay, was it you that said, or you just said that there's two things that are guaranteed in life?
Death and
Death and taxes.
Death and taxes. So you're going to get taxed by all different people, but the federal level, there's a federal level estate tax,
Right.
and then there's a state level estate tax. At the federal exemption right now is like rounding up. It's $13 million per person. So if your estate is under $13 million, you don't have to worry about the federal estate tax. And then for Massachusetts, if it's under $2 million, you don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
But then if you're married and you have a trust, you can combine your estate tax exemptions, and basically, if it's under $4 million, you're good.
You're good.
You're good.
Okay. Vanessa, your second question? Or was that one and the same?
Formulate it yet.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you for that question. Yeah. So let's begin, because we can stay here all night, but I want to transition and really begin to move over into the investing side. So say I'm an investor, and I'm working with an attorney who does estate planning. What does that partnership look like? Cameron, from your experience, what's a tasteful way of working with an attorney, but also contacting the heirs, who would be inheriting some property.
Okay. So first and foremost, always just leading with value. How I reach out to personal representatives or the heirs or beneficiaries is just like, what do you need help with?
Right.
It's the most difficult time in someone's life.
Correct.
Is death, I feel like personally. And, sometimes you might not be able to connect with them like, hey, I want to purchase your house. But what does it cost just to be able to be like, hey, well, I know you need an attorney. Let me reach out to one of my contacts and see what you need help with.
Okay.
Or let's say, I handle the estate preservation. So let's say they just need a clean out.
Right.
Well, it doesn't cost me anything just to refer that,
Right.
How I reach out to attorneys per se is kind of the same thing.
Stop right there. So, because we got investors here as well as out there. So if you listen to what Cameron was saying, one of the things he said was this: you have to provide value to the people that you're talking to, and so it might be a referral, or it could be, and sometimes we talking coming in, it could be a listening ear. I'm just talking from experience. When people would call me, and obviously I'm an investor, so I know what I'm talking about, and know what I'm doing, but they were calling, hey, look, I saw 642 Elm. That was one of my properties I inherited. So your father recently passed away at 642 Elm Street. And I'm not saying that guys were cold or whatever, but I'm thinking like, wow, if I was in a bad headspace, I don't know how that conversation would have gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like some people like to, they're just thinking about like, hey, I just want the real estate deal.
Right.
Or they're people too, you
Correct.
know. People going through the most detrimental thing you can go through. Take a step back and just try to provide value for people in general first,
Right.
And you just get more, bees with honey instead of vinegar.
Correct.
And I think it served me well. So it's not funny, but one of my first deals actually was a referral from an attorney. I went there and for I want to say an hour and like 45 minutes, I talked to them just about her dad.
Right.
You can tell like she was a daddy's girl. She just wanted to talk. And just me just not really thinking. I'm just sitting there talking to her, looking at pictures, going through the whole house.
Wow. Yeah.
And then for probably 15, 20 minutes, I look at the house, took a couple pictures, and I leave.
Right.
But before I left, I turned around and gave her a hug, just not thinking. And then she just So what had happened, as soon as I'm leaving, the neighbor across the street, he's coming over, and the first thing he says is like, hey, Noelle, you want to sell the house? And she looks, and she just gives like this face of disgust. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she gave me a look, and then I just said, well, I'll see you later. And I left. The attorney that referred it to me, she called me and was like, Cameron, she only, I don't know what the heck you did, but she only wants to sell it to you.
Right.
And then that also helped me realize, this is a people business. Most of this
100%.
business.
Right.
It's a people business. So as long as you're serving people, it gets a little easier,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that is, what we always have to keep in mind. Obviously, you have to be profitable in this business, but it's all about we're the old saying is you can do well as you can do good and do well at the same time.
Absolutely.
So as we're putting people first in all that we're doing, including in this area of dealing with people around probate and estate planning and all that, and really stepping in to be the solution for them in a very difficult time. My wife and I we don't watch a lot of regular TV, but we watch them on the HGTV shows.
I like those.
And it was a show out in, this couple is, I think they're out in Hawaii somewhere. And
Aloha Renovation.
Aloha Renovation.
That's my show.
Yeah, you like that? And so we were watching that, and then not that I didn't know this, but for some reason it really hit me as I'm watching this young lady inherit this property, and she was sitting there, and the house is dilapidated. She didn't know where to start, what to do, or whatever else. And my wife and I turned to each other. I said, she would have never been able to get that house back up to a point where she could either rent it out or sell it herself. Because I think one of the biggest problems that people face in this is that as investors, sometimes we get the tag of they're just coming in and trying to get the money. It's like if you look at it as, like you said, as serving people, and look at these people will never be able to do what you know how to do or what I know how to do. Absolutely. And so you're providing a solution and coming at it from that perspective is I think is critical.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's just imagine if she had somebody like me to come in and say, hey, let me make a game plan, and I can figure this out for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think that. Well, obviously that's why I was on TV. They actually flipped it.
Yeah.
But it was like, and that price point out there is that everything is $1 million and up.
Yeah, I seen some of the houses, and I'm like,
the roof is falling in, and the dad was a hoarder and all that, and you're like, wow, and it's like, and she said, yeah, she's gonna sell it for 1.2 or 1.3. I was like, dang, 1.2, as is.
Yeah.
Then they end up selling for almost $2 million. But what really just stood out to me is that she would have never had the resources or the mindset on how to get this thing to go, because she was still grieving. She's still going through the problem. I miss my mom, I miss my dad. And then now you have this business decision that you have to make, and that also makes it difficult. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, just having someone just be able to make a game plan for you,
Right.
because it isn't an easy process.
Right.
But that's why I also try to reach out like, hey, I'm not trying to just only buy your house. Tell me what else you need. You know. I had a situation where, I can go on all day. I had a situation, this kid was 20, and, he sounded younger, but he sounded like me,
Right.
His mom and his grandmom died, I think he said 2 months between each other, and he just was, venting to me for a little bit.
Exactly.
And he's like, oh, I'm going through plumbing school, I want to quit. And I just told him straight up, I was like, your mother will beat you up if you quit plumbing school. Because, he sounded like his mom from the same place, so I was just like,
keep going.
keep going. I was like, listen, I'm supposed to be on the opposite end telling you, oh yeah, sell that house.
Right.
Do not sell that house.
Right.
Figure it out.
Right.
I was like, worst case scenario, call me. I'll try to help you figure something out.
Right.
And it's just probate. It's been a blessing.
Right. So talk about how did you start even going down this niche? Because there's so many, as you guys know, there's so many different ways that you can. There's so many different things you can do in real estate. So whether you're a regular realtor or whether you're an investor like ourselves, how did you what pushed you down that probate?
And I also want to add on to that question. Did you start out wholesaling like I did? Because I remember when I started out, there were all different sources of leads, like divorce leads, like expired listings, all these different things, and I tried them all, and then probate was the one that I said I don't know if I can touch it because it's it's so sensitive. I feel predatory. But
they call them ambulance chasers for a reason.
But then after talking to you about it, it's like you're providing them a real service that they need, that they actually absolutely need, and you're helping them.
So I feel like this was just kind of purpose driven. So real quick, I was solely about the money. I was only wholesaling, just like, oh, let me get my bread in and out. I didn't care about nothing but making the money. So what wholesaling is just putting a house under contract and assigning that equitable contract for a number.
Right.
So I'll go to him, hey, Mr. Houseman, I want to buy your house for $100,000. I will put that under purchase and sale and sell that contract for $110,000 to Mr. Dexter here.
Right.
I would take those 2 pieces of paper, bring it to my title and escrow attorney, and I would get paid whatever the difference was at closing. Solely focus on that. So now my stepmom, she cooks for parties. We Nigerian. She in the community, people come to her to cater for parties. She make real good jollof rice. So there's 2 little girls, their parents died. Long story short, this is a fast forward. Their parents died 6 months between each other because of COVID. My stepmom, just knowing I do real estate, was like, help them keep the house. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do, right? So I called my title and escrow attorney, just being resourceful, like, hey, Crystal, what should I do? She's like, well, Cam, they got to go through what's called probate. First time I ever heard probate. Heard the word, heard anything about it, okay? And I'm 30. And I'm just like, why haven't I heard this?
Yeah, what is that?
I go down the rabbit hole. So long story short, I met Veronica Wythe, okay? They didn't end up keeping the house, but I ended up assigning it, and then I hit them with half the money. And then she liked the way I approached it, and she was like, oh, you're still a human, right? Because this is a human-driven business.
Exactly.
She basically showed me just like, hey, well, there's a certain way to serve people in this business, and I feel like one thing you can do is help people through probate. It's not easy, but if you get comfortable enough at it, I think you can be good at it.
You can do well with it. Yeah.
And I'm here. It's been
So
very interesting. I like literally I have stories for days. Okay.
So from that assignment, helping your family out, and talking to that attorney, you decided to switch over to focus on probate.
Just solely probate. Well, it wasn't just like, it was slowly building up. Like there would be one probate deal, and then it just went really smoothly because the lady, like I said, the lady liked me, the one in Maynard.
Right.
Then there was another deal where I just, like the lady, I just kind of helped her out of the situation. I paid somebody in my neighborhood patch a hole in the ceiling.
Okay.
And then there was a bunch of little kids like playing basketball. I was like, oh, I'll give you $50 if you help me throw away all the trash.
Right.
And then I just helped the real estate investor, well, the guy listed, and then the real estate investor came and scooped it up. And everybody won in that situation. And then it just kind of just took off steam. And then there was one time where just like, I was like, oh no, I'm doing probate for real. When one of my mentors, he found a portfolio, and I just was like, oh, why don't you pull some leads? Like I gave him like the kind of the alley-oop. Why don't you pull some leads? And he ended up finding a 68-unit portfolio in probate.
Okay. Wow.
And I was just like, hold up, like I just gave you the lead, but you know, and that was Andrew Freed. And I was just like, okay, well, you know, this is obviously beneficial, right? And then I started looking at it from a servant perspective.
Right.
Like, okay, there are people in need. If I can provide them value, and then, you know, also provide the attorney's value,
Right.
how could I lose?
Right. Well, and that's what I want to really get into, because as you guys both out there and out here know, always talk about, this is a marketing business, that you need to be top of mind. And so I believe, not that I've worked probate, but I believe it's less traffic in it because people don't want to deal with it.
Exactly.
and really where you want to go a lot of times is you want to go where there's less traffic at. You know what I mean? And so talk about how you would approach attorneys. So just say I'm an investor, I'm watching out here, or maybe I'm an investor like Victor and Vanessa and my sister Juanita back there. And I wanted to begin to go down this road and say, hey, look, I sat with my boy Cameron, and he's doing this. How can we approach attorneys? What would he say, and things of that nature, in order to really start going down this niche? Because I think there is a way for you to be an asset to their business, and then for them to be an asset obviously to your business.
So again, just provide value. Like, you don't want someone coming up to you like, hey, I need you to give me something.
Right.
You'd be like, give you what? Like, I'm not trying to, you know? But so I think just bring in the attorney, you want to bring them a gift, right?
Okay.
Bring them a referral.
Right. Okay.
That's, you know, one
Okay.
of the best things you can do, you know? We're with real estate investors all day. Hey, do you need an estate plan?
Right.
Well, I have an estate plan attorney.
Right.
You know, again, I do a lot of my own prospecting, so I find myself in need of attorneys.
Okay.
You know, like, so he's not a probate litigator, okay? He doesn't want to argue in court. So there's a little, you know, differences. Like, he's the preventative.
This is true.
The estate planner. So we also work with a probate litigator who's just going to argue on your behalf, like, hey, these are the things that need to happen. This is what is on the will. If there is a will, isn't a will, whole process. And then they go from there. And then there's also, you know, the real estate attorneys who handle the real estate themselves that also specialize in probate, because there might be title problems. There might be title work that needs to be found, you know?
So you talked about three different, and it could be more, the three different types. So you got one who is on a proactive side where, hey, I'm trying to help you set up this so we ain't got to go through that other end. And then you're talking about somebody who's like a litigator. So if we do have to have some
in the
issues
thick of it.
in the thick of it, and so that's what they do.
Yep.
Wow.
And then there's, you know, again, the reactive where you might need title work because Susie and John were arguing, and she ripped up the will or whatever, and now they both dead. And now how are you gonna find the will, or how are you gonna figure out they were arguing and they ripped up the will? So like, listen, there's stories all day. I can tell you, and I've only been so. Oh man, yeah, stories all day. It's I was gonna start a segment called Probate Horror Stories and just kind of go with it.
But I think there's value in that, because what we're trying to do is, and we said this offline, we'll say this online so it'll be on tape and people can hear it. A lot of times some of these conversations or some of the disputes can be handled if we have the conversation while people are alive. And a lot of times we don't want to have the conversation because we're saying, some people have this thing of, this uncomfortable and I don't want to talk about it, or you trying to knock me off, and all these crazy conversations. But really what we really have to make it, we have to normalize having conversations when people are with it so that we can have, some smoother transitions.
Yeah, I think normalizing the conversations with the people who need your services, but also normalize the conversations with the other professionals that you work with as well. Like in Cam's case, the attorneys. Like he works with a lot of different kinds of attorneys, and attorneys are humans too. And if you just reach out, say hi, just introduce yourself to them. I think that's a good starting point. Tell them, explain what you're doing, and and they're gonna maybe you can offer something, but if you don't have anything to offer, just explain what you're doing, and maybe they'll see something that, you know what, that could be useful to me, that what you do, like maybe we could work together and just start building relationships. Like you said, it's a people business.
100%.
It's a lot of it has to do with who you know. And if you have good relationship with attorneys, then that's going to help you, or any professional in the industry.
Exactly.
You want someone that'll pick up the phone when you have that urgent question. A lot of times time is of the essence with these deals. You need to get the answer quickly. So treating people right is a big part of it too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And relationships have been very pivotal in my growth as well, just being around certain people to be able to give me that information. I mean, I've been super blessed to fall in probate and have the people around me to do, just navigate this space. Because, like I said, it's a very difficult space.
And I think you hit a nugget, and I think this is about collaboration. It's not competition. And
only at the top. At the top there's collaboration.
Yeah,
at the
man.
bottom,
At the bottom
competition.
is competition. And it's a collaboration is one of the newer currencies of the 21st century. Is that if we can come together, and John does something, and Cameron does something, Dexter does something, and people out there do something, we can come together. Everybody can eat. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's those win-wins.
Exactly.
There's so many people who can benefit off of a single transaction,
100%.
a single deal, like the contractors, the attorneys, the lenders, and the not to mention the homeowner as well. They could have been facing financial ruin. They're about to go into bankruptcy, and we're offering them a solution, a way to get out of that. And everyone wins.
Yeah. Well, my joke has always been if you want to see how much of a team sport a real estate transaction is, look at how many people get paid.
Yeah.
That's true.
You look at the settlement statement, you're like, this person got paid, this person got paid, this person got paid. So there's definitely enough room for everybody. Any questions out there? Any more questions?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
How do you mainly find your probates? Are they mainly just referrals? And you might have this coming up, but I'd like for you to talk a little bit more about what is the timeline from, I guess, the death of the individual to, real estate close or getting it off. Can you talk about that a little bit more?
So how I prospect, right? For myself, I pull the data right off the government website. You can, pull each county. I usually pull 4 counties specifically, but I also work on referrals, between my attorneys, like, hey, Cam, I got this property in Attleboro. Could you please clean it out and see if you can get a cash offer for me?
Okay.
What do you mean about pulling the data from the government website?
So you can go right to the government website, right? Because there's probates every day, and usually the first of the month I just pull all the data and just put it in right in the Excel spreadsheet. So it'll just say like, hey, John Snow, he died. He's the decedent, the dead person. and Mary Sue, his daughter, is filing for probate. Here's her number. Here's her address. Here's the address, and it's right there. Like, it's all public
It's
information.
a public process, yeah.
Yep. So I just, scrub the data myself, put it in a spreadsheet, and I get to calling and mailing. And if I have any good rapport, I grab the email and give them an email drip campaign.
So government, you mean local? So local counties?
Yes, every county has a website, and you can look and see who's going through probate, who filed.
Okay.
The minutes, the attorneys that are working, the magistrate, and
So I'm in Suffolk County, so Suffolk County would have every month.
every day.
Every day, every day, who's going through probate, and then who the person is, who the attorney is, and that's how that flows.
Everything.
Are you talking about public notices?
No. So the public notices is where, they have the creditors. So they say, like, hey, John Snow died this day, and then they want the creditors just to kind of, go and see if they have any money owed to the estate or something. So they post just to see if, like, hey, we owe American Express $10,000 or something,
Right.
And that's the public notices.
Yeah, there's different ways to get the information, it sounds like.
Yeah, there's different ways to get the information. My favorite is just first of the month, I pull all the data, I put it in a spreadsheet and call. For, like, the public notices, like, that's when they're already, like, through the process, but I want them as soon as they file.
Got it.
File at the court. Okay, so
Yeah.
each count, you can look up the court dockets and see who.
Yeah, just
That's
file.
just saying, because I remember when my dad, that's one of the things that lawyers they had to. My dad died in New Haven, Connecticut, so it was in the town as or the paper is the New Haven Register, so they had to list it in the New Haven Register, and I think it had to be there for 30 days, right? Yeah, 30 days, and then after that, they came back and said, whoever didn't do whatever else, it's too bad for you, but that was what they had to go through. Yeah.
You could probably also look at obituaries. That might be like the first hint that there might be a probate.
Yeah.
Because not everyone has to go through probate, but.
So I try to let it resonate just a little bit because I don't want to call them, like, right when someone dies. And then they're like, you're definitely an ambulance chaser. Like, relax, buddy. But,
She died on Wednesday.
Yeah, you call on Friday. Like, we haven't even got the wake popping.
Sorry for your
loss.
loss.
Like,
Have you thought about what you're going to do at the house?
You're dealing with the most distressed people, so if you are going to call probate, I hope you have tough skin. I mean, again, I come from a place of service.
Yeah. Have you got
from a
cussed
place-
out at all?
Oh, it's a sport. So at this point, I try to, like, look at it as, like, okay, they're just grieving, they're going through a rough time. But listen, I mean, real estate in general, when you're cold calling, you have to have tough skin. But when you're calling someone who's, father, mother, brother, sister, or whatever just died. And okay, so I went through a situation where the lady said verbatim, "I hate my brother," right? Like, I cannot stand him, et cetera, et cetera. The way she grieved when I met her, and, like, I'm looking through the house, and she's like, "Well, I don't want to throw this away. I don't want to throw that away."
So the brother was the one who passed away?
Yes, he's the decedent.
Okay.
And she, on the phone, like, going off, talking crazy, and then I met her in person, and it was a whole change of scenery. And it was just like, yeah, people are different. It's a different space, so you definitely have to.
I cold called for real estate, just, sales, like representing them on the sale of their house, or as a buyer's agent. And I would get cussed out regularly, hung up on, and that was not, they were just regular people.
Right. Yeah.
So I had a wife that her husband died, and she just went off, like a good, I let her vent.
Of course.
I let her vent, but she went off, like, "This is my husband, he just died, it's been only 2 months, you guys are just calling, because that's another thing.
As many people doing it.
A lot of people are calling, and that's why I like
There
to
are.
also differentiate myself with the message that I give, because people are just calling like, "Hey, I know Tom just died, but I just want to buy your house for 50 cents on the dollar." So it's like,
Wonder, I mean, some of them must get a deal from it, because otherwise I don't know why they'd keep calling.
But it's the law of numbers, as long as you're calling, someone's gonna end up like, okay.
And even if your message is kind of more sincere and more pure, you genuinely want to help them, they might go with someone else just because they resonate with that they connect with that person more, and that's really why it's a numbers game. Is
Absolutely.
some person might not like you, even though like they'd be better off with you. They might just not like the sound in your voice.
Absolutely. But I mean, so there's an old Chinese proverb. There's a guy handing out bags of gold on the street, but the way it's wrapped up, everybody thinks like I don't want it. What is that? But I feel like I'm the guy passing out the gold. Like, hey, you know, you just missed your opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, so
Well, it's what we talk about all the time. Is if you're gonna do any type of business, it takes a thick skin. You know, and you develop that over time. And what you have to do is you have to keep your goals in front of you. So you looking at your book early on, and you talk about these are my goals, 10-year goals, or 5-year goals. And so that's what I want. So, and I'm not saying having a job is easy. It's easier, but working out, and sometimes, nowadays what we got going on right now in our society is crazy. But we're talking about you doing something to control your own future. So those are things you got to keep in front of you.
Absolutely.
As you're doing this.
I'm going to be the best probate focused real estate investor in Massachusetts, and I'm going to help. I don't have a number, but I want to help a certain amount of people avoid probate, or at least react to it.
More than anyone else has ever helped anyone.
Yes.
You want to help the most people out of any.
Absolutely.
Out of any.
Any other questions, Victor, on that?
My bad. I'm sorry.
The timeline.
So that's a very
cold body.
Yeah.
To,
like closing, or like you can buy the property to close.
Yeah.
So that's a really interesting question. So like first and foremost, it depends on if they have a will or not. Okay, that alone just takes time, because at least a will is kind of a guideline. Not having a will, people can contest it either way, but it's easier to contest it if they don't have a will. So then they have to go through formal or informal probate. Informal is just like, yes, they have a will. It's a little easier, kind of like slide through, as opposed to formal, which is like crossing their T's and dotting their I's. Like they're making sure everything is, everything's above board, but everything's like, extra. Like they're doing their extra appraisals, the extra inspections and stuff like that for the property. Now, then that depends on what county you're in. I mean, Middlesex is going to take a little less time than Norfolk, because Norfolk, they don't know how to act down there, right? I mean, listen, just keeping it real. And,
Well, if y'all out there in Norfolk, it's all good.
I love you guys, but it's
Y'all tripping.
it shouldn't take just to get your personal representative papers, like your PR, just saying like, hey, I have a fiduciary responsibility to the estate, like 6 to 8 months,
Right.
as opposed to like Middlesex, it'll probably take like 4 months max, right? So that all depends. And then, what if you need a right to sell because it's not in the will, So that also takes some time. So that could take like, you get your PR papers in 4 months, that might take you another 4 months. So you're in it for 8 months, and
months at
then,
that point,
you have to still go through a couple court appearances just to be able to sell the estate. So it'll probably take like a year. So if you're going through probate, let's say a good year, year and a half.
Okay.
But like I said, those are all different variables on, what your problem is. Right. So let's say you don't have a will, you're in Middlesex County, and you're just trying to get your PR papers and right to sell. Like I said, it'll probably take you a year. But if you're going through Norfolk, probably like a year and a half. And you got to remember, you still got to pay your taxes.
Yeah,
you still got to pay your mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, like I said, it takes
crazy.
a lot.
Yeah. Wow. Y'all getting something out of this? This is real good stuff. So we got a few more minutes left, but I want to go back to some stuff John was talking about. John, can you talk to us about some of the estate planning mistakes that you see people making? Because since you're on the reactive side, let's get into that a little bit.
Some mistakes people are making.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it has to do with inter vivos gifts, like transferring, giving gifts while you're still alive, when
Right.
it would be better off to leave it in a will.
Okay.
Because you like we talked about the step up in basis. A big mistake is not having any estate plan in place at all. We talked about the will and the trust, but I remember you did ask me what some of the other documents were.
Right.
The will and the trust are kind of the heart of your estate plan. Those are the primary instruments, but then we have a whole laundry list of other documents. We call them the ancillary documents that really complement the will and the trust. So you got your incapacity documents, your power of attorney, and your healthcare proxy.
Okay.
So those documents, you're able to name agents who can act on your behalf in the event of if you become incapacitated, and they can make medical decisions on your behalf. Your power of attorney can make financial and legal decisions. They can sue people, open and close bank accounts. Right now, currently, there's a lot of up and down, a lot of uncertainty in the stock market, in the financial markets. If you're incapacitated and you don't have a power of attorney, you might lose out. If you've got a power of attorney, they could buy, sell, transfer assets as needed, and that's a huge, it's a huge mistake if you're an adult and you don't have a power of attorney in place. You want it to be a durable power of attorney. That means that it will last throughout your incapacity. So some powers of attorney, if it's not durable, if you become incapacitated, then it wouldn't be effective. They won't be able to act on your behalf. And because the alternative, if you don't have a power of attorney, is someone who wanted to help you out and act on your behalf, they'd have to petition the court and get court approval basically to be able to do that. And that's a process. And
all this is going
time
on
is
while
of the
you're
essence.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got the will, we got the trust, we have the power of attorney. What other two documents you said?
You've got your healthcare proxy.
Health compute back and taking note. That's what I'm saying.
There's the
healthcare proxy. It was the other thing.
There's a HIPAA authorization that's less important. It can be incorporated into the healthcare proxy. The healthcare directive. So that's if you want specifying your preferences for end-of-life care, if you want to be on life support. And that's actually a big one, because if people don't know what you want, they might keep you on life support, and what they might not be thinking of is the cost associated with that. You could be racking up medical bills, and that's money that's being taken away from basically from your estate, from your beneficiaries. Whereas it could have been your preference all along that if I'm not able to, live on my own, a lot of people, if they might say like, God never intended for me to be, kept alive by these artificial means. It's my time to go. Let me go.
Let me out of here.
But if you don't write that out for the people that that you care about, if you don't tell them, express that wish for them, and give them the power to act on that wish, they might be keeping you alive. Doing who knows what. So it's really important to express your medical preferences to your loved ones, so they know. But they also need the tools, the power of attorney, the healthcare proxy, to have the power and authority to act on your behalf.
Right. So talk to me about the prices, because most of the time it comes down to dollars and cents as far as people which way they go. From my experience, maybe you have a different experience. So, what is the range that people can pay for will, trust, and some things we're talking about?
Oh my gosh, it can be expensive, especially the higher end estate plans with all the bells and whistles. The good news is, so those for very high net worth estates, like if you're talking. If you have a taxable estate, federally taxable estate, so like over 13 million, so it could, your estate plan could be upwards of $20,000 to set everything up. Some attorneys charge by the hour, and they might have, they might be $350 to $600 an hour for their work. The good news is most people don't need like a fancy schmancy plan. Most people just need a basic estate plan, and that can actually be affordable. It can be. I personally try and make it affordable for for every person to be able to afford an estate plan. So it would be like in the $2,000, $3,000 range for a complete package. You get your will, your trust, power of attorney, all these other documents with it. It's like a starter estate plan. A lot of people could benefit from that. Most people don't have a taxable estate,
Right.
you know. I do flat fee for most of
Okay.
my work, so it's just upfront one-time fee. Some attorneys do by the hour, but there's a big range. Like if you just needed a simple will, I think I would be at around $1,000, actually less for a single person,
Right.
just for a simple will. I offer package deals or individual documents. A lot of attorneys do that, where you know you get might as well get a package,
Of course.
you know, so you're fully protected.
Right.
There's a big range in price in fees.
I mean that's been the challenge when I've talked to people about that, and you know, you're trying to share with them the importance of, you know, being able to pass it down effectively. And then you start talking about the price of, well, I don't have $2,000, I don't have $1,500, whatever the number is.
It's an investment. You
Thank
rather
you.
pay for that than
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
having to pay for
Yeah,
probate.
yeah.
So it's like pick your poison. Would
Yeah,
you rather
yeah,
you know,
and so
or
you
just
know,
not even the money? Would you rather you know pay for the price of your kids arguing over your estate? You know, like the damage that's gonna cause.
right, yeah.
So yeah.
So y'all hear the experts, right? And if you're part of this group, I'm expecting you to make enough money to be able to afford to sit with a John in order.
And my right now, while I'm able to, I'm getting busier every day. But one of my goals, what I would love to be able to achieve long term is to find a way so I could make estate planning affordable for everyone. Right now I do offer payment plans if needed.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're down to our last 2 minutes. So what I want you guys to do, start with you, Cameron. Look into that camera right there. Let them know how how the folks can stay in contact with you. And then, John, you follow Cameron.
So my name's Cameron Adesanya. You can find me at Cam Adesanya on Facebook. Cam Does Probate on YouTube. Fundamental Estates. Well, Fundamental Estates at Outlook.com is my email, or my website, www.myprobateservice.com.
So all of that was came up on the screen. For those of you who are here, y'all can hit him up after he's done. Because we'll be here. John, do the same thing for the people out there at the camera.
John Bayog Law. You can my website, www.bayoglaw.com. I'm on everything, all the social medias. It's usually at Bayog Law. That's BAYOG Law. So at Bayog Law, Instagram, / for Facebook, you know, everything. I'm on everything pretty much.
Good. Well, give it up for these guys. They were phenomenal, weren't they?
Thank you.
You know, gave us some serious information about a serious topic. You know, and so as always, we thank you guys for investing. They drove a little bit to get here. Again, we will see you guys next month is the Real Estate Wealth Creation Summit, April 4th and 5th. Hey, look, take that Friday off. Call your boss. I'm feeling too good to come in today. I'm learning how to build wealth. And then Saturday for most people is a day off. But listen, it's going to be life-changing April 4th and 5th. Go to our website, www.rewealthcreationsummit.com, www.rewealthcreationsummit.com. And we will see you not next month, but in May. Be blessed. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Awesome.